everyone, my name is Flare Blitz Banana. This is my first video, so please bear with me through my low quality and probably lack of knowledge. I'm most certainly not a pro at competitive Pokemon, and this is just something I found while experimenting and thought it would be fun to try it out and show people. I apologize if there are any issues with the recording or things popping up. I certainly don't have the best equipment, so please just accept the fact that I am very new to this. So, I have an original, at least as far as I know, Baton Pass strategy involving Gorebyss. When it comes to Baton Pass Gorebyss, most people like to run Shell Smash. However, this Pokemon's support in terms of making other members bulky goes unnoticed by most people. Let us first take a look at this Gorebyss's moveset, which consists of Aqua Ring, Iron Defense, Amnesia, and Baton Pass. You probably noticed that Gorebyss has no offensive moves. Please keep this in mind when we discuss the weaknesses in a little bit. This strategy is the basis for 2/3 of your whole team, the Diggersby, Klefki, Gorebyss, and Talonflame. All of them are involved in this strategy. So if this strategy fails, you're going to be in a very tight spot. There are a few weaknesses to this strategy as well. And although those weaknesses can ruin the strategy, there are also ways to counter them. Let's discuss the weaknesses first, but we'll get to the rest of the team later. So, the first weakness, I'll list the weaknesses from most dangerous to least dangerous. The most dangerous weakness of this strategy is something that every single Pokemon is capable of: a critical hit. Critical hits go through all stat buffs that you have set up on yourself, and any stat decreases on your opponent are also not calculated when critical hits occur. In addition to that, the attack gets multiplied by 1.5. While you're setting up with Gorebyss, or any Pokemon actually, there's always that 6.25% chance that your opponent will get a crit. Therefore, you must not be greedy while setting up. This goes double for when your opponent is using a move with a high crit chance, such as Psycho Cut or Night Slash. The second biggest weakness is moves that can switch you out, such as Roar or Dragon Tail. This is a big issue because as soon as you're switched out, you lose all of the hard work you put into setting up. And it's not like you could just Baton Pass before you get hit by one of these moves. Even if you do Baton Pass, you'll get switched out as soon as your other Pokemon has received those stats. Also, it's sometimes hard to predict whether or not your opponent is running one of these moves, as they're often considered as maybes for movesets, so you can never be certain. Next up is Taunt. Looking at Gorebyss's moveset, this one seems like a pretty obvious weakness. Taunt makes it so that you can no longer use attacks that do damage. This will lock Gorebyss into struggle, and not only that, we're also running Klefki here, who likes to run non-offensive attacks. Encore is also a weakness due to similar reasons because it locks you into the same move for 5 turns, which can completely waste your turns. A somewhat annoying weakness is Toxic. Being badly poisoned puts a timer on your Pokemon by making it take an increased amount of damage every turn. Fortunately, Aqua Ring helps to counter this, and if you're running a healing move, that helps as well. But do be wary of Toxic. Keep an eye out for that. Finally, there's Stealth Rock, which really only applies if you're using Talonflame like me. It'll take away 50% of Talonflame's health, but this can be easily healed off, especially if you've got Aqua Ring going, or, again, a healing move, such as Roost or Recover. And if you decided to use something else to take the place of Talonflame, this is really no concern of yours. With all of those weaknesses out of the way, let's get to the actual team. First up, this strategy kind of requires a bit of a suicide lead of sorts. So here we have Diggersby. I like to use Choice Scarf Diggersby because Diggersby is a great powerhouse who can do a lot of damage from one attack that thanks to huge power and having same type attack bonus or stab on return. In addition to return, I like to run Earthquake as well to deal with Heat Trance and as an additional stab attack. Wild Charge is a great for coverage, and if you don't want your Diggersby to be a suicide lead, you might run U-turn just to do one big hit and then switch out for later. However, I personally like to run Rock Slide instead, just to get a lot of coverage. And as for the EVs, they should be fully invested into attack and speed. With Diggersby, you're going to want to have maxed out offense with very little care for personal safety. Diggersby is here to remove any Pokemon capable of those weaknesses we discussed, such as Taunt, or Stealth Rocks, or anything like that, and especially Roar and Dragon Tail, because those moves always go last, so Diggersby should be able to take it out in one shot. Please keep in mind that, of course, that's your choice, so usually you're just going to use Return, unless if your opponent's running a Ghost type. So, yeah, there's quite a few things to keep in mind when choosing what you want to lock yourself into. You're probably just going to want to let Diggersby go down, or if you've got a safe switch into your Klefki, because this needs to be relatively healthy. Its main purpose is to set up Reflect and Light Screen, which is of course why it has the Light Clay. And of course we'll give it the Prankster ability as well to make non-damaging moves go first. It can have Thunder Wave and Foul Play. Thunder Wave is to slow your opponents down significantly, and Foul Play is great because it will stop your opponents from setting up, which could also be a weakness of this strategy as well, because it'll let your opponent get even. But with Foul Play, you can, as if it's physical stat boost, then you can use that against them thanks to Foul Play. As for the EVs, I like to keep, in this situation, I like to keep the stats fairly the same, fairly even in terms of defense and special defense. We've got 248 on the HP, 72 on the defense, and 188 on the special defense. Now we also have a Bold Nature, which will increase our defense in order to compensate for the special defense getting more EVs. This Klefki has to be ready to take any hit. Also, do you like the pun there? Key to victory? No? Too bad. It's staying. Next up, we have Goddess the Gorebyss. Probably the star of the show here. We already discussed its moves a bit, but let's talk about its items, ability, etc. We have a Sitrus Berry, which, as you can see here, will, when we drop down to low health, that'll bring us back up and we continue setting up. The ability is kind of irrelevant since we're not running any sort of rain. If you decide to run rain, then this will be a little more important. Personally, I like to run Swift Swim because I think it's a better ability overall. And with Gorebyss, you're going to kind of want to be faster so you can set things up and not be knocked out. Like I said before, we've got Iron Defense, Amnesia, Aqua Ring, which is very important. You might be wondering why run Aqua Ring. You'll find out in just a second. And of course, Baton Pass to pass all of that on to our Talonflame. As for the EVs, you just want to go with what it suggests. We want to be fast and bulky and supportive. So go with fast, bulky support. Pretty self-explanatory. And finally, we have Future KFC, the Talonflame. A Pokemon that no one likes. Often considered OU garbage. Talonflame is very fast and very powerful and has exclusive access to the ability Gale Wings, which makes all flying type moves have increased priority. You might notice that he's holding the leftovers, which is very rare for a Talonflame and typically not the best idea because Talonflame stats aren't the best. It's pretty frail. But Talonflame will receive stat boosts from Gorebyss. This is where things get interesting. The Iron Defense and Amnesia makes Talonflame able to take hits in order to set up Sword Stance. And then you have Aqua Ring plus leftovers equals 1/8 of your health restored every single turn, which is equivalent to that of Poison Heal Gliscor, which is another Pokemon that people tend to hate because it's got great HP recovery. Combine great offensive power with great HP recovery and you have a huge powerhouse on your side. So the Aqua Ring and the leftovers will compensate for any recoil damage taken from Brave Bird and Flare Blitz. And if you decide that you want to get some health back, go ahead and use Roost. Now, be careful when setting up sword stances again, because of critical hits. But if you're feeling confident, you can possibly get up to +6 in just 3 turns, which is very, very great, and you can just sweep from there. As for the other two Pokemon, at the end, it's really all up to personal preference. I've got a Gliscor here, I score the Gliscor, and I'm a boy the Gardevoir. But, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what you use. For me, I just like these Pokemon because I've always found them useful. I've used Gliscor a lot, and I've used Gardevoir a lot. I both think that they're good Pokemon for competitive play. The only real rule with your last two Pokemon is that they should be able to hold their own and shouldn't really have a supportive role. Like, you probably wouldn't want something to set up entry hazards or screens or something like that. You want something that can hold its own by either taking out the opponent or going in for sweeps. Other options, you could have like Dragonite or Hydreigon, stuff like that. And that's that. Finally, at long last, you know the whole strategy. I apologize if this was too long, but there it is. There's quite a lot to this. And there will be a list of these Pokemon in the description that you can just copy and paste into Showdown using the import-export. Oh, there's that popping up thing I was talking about. And just in case you were wondering, yes, this team is valid for OU. There's the check right there. Confirmed. So, I am going to get into a battle. Let's see how this team does in battle.